we'll talk preseason, but De'Aaron Fox had some interesting things to say in The Athletic today.
Mm-hmm.
Talking with Sam Amick about his extension and why he has not yet signed one. Now, we all know the financial implications, right?
Uh-huh.
Not signing a long-term extension without that All-NBA nod, because if he's All-NBA again, he can make millions and millions of more dollars.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no incentive to sign it now outside of no longer being asked about it.
Yep.
On the other hand, we also have De'Aaron Fox saying this to Sam Amick, quote, "But I want to make sure we're in that position to be competing at a high level for a long time, not just fighting for a playoff spot. Obviously, the way that the West is going, we have to continue to get better as players and as a team, as an organization. And I mean, I'm not saying I'm not staying or that I am staying, but I would love to be here, and I want to be sure, or want to make sure, that we're competing at a high level." Nothing he said, and he reiterates that a couple of different times.
In a couple of different ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can go read it in The Athletic. We're not going to read the whole story to you, but that's the gist of what he's saying. Is not going to commit either way because I have to see how this is going to go. Teams change quickly. Things change quickly. I want to be with Sacramento. I want to be with the same team my whole career. That's what I would like to do. But and I think that's the smart thing to do. A, you're not going to commit for financial reasons, but B, you're not going to commit either way right now, because if, again, this is obviously not going to happen, but let's follow me. If Domas tomorrow says, you know what, I'm going to take up pottery with my life. I'm done with basketball. Goodbye. And DeMar DeRozan says, you know what, I've been doing this for a long time. I don't want to do this anymore. Goodbye. Let's just say after this season, not tomorrow, after this season. And Malik Monk says, I want to get traded. Trade me. That changes the calculus a lot for a player that wants to be competing.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I don't think those things are going to happen. And De'Aaron says later in the piece that they're moving the right direction. They're doing all the right things, which is, I think, kind of the vibe I get.
Yeah.
I didn't take issue with anything he said.
I don't take any issue either. And he references Jason Tatum and Bam Adebayo. Jason Tatum, of course, won a championship last year. Bam has been to 2 finals.
Mm-hmm.
And saying, like, look, they actually have like this path where they've got somewhere, and that's why they signed their extensions.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, we're not there.
Mm-hmm.
And I get it. I mean, this is year 8. In his first 7 seasons in the NBA, he's made the playoffs 1 time. Yeah. And in order for him to reach the pinnacle of a player of his skill level and everything else, you need to win games. And you can't just say, well, it's not, De'Aaron Fox has no fault in where the Kings have been the last 7 years. You can't say that. Either he's not to blame, but also he talks about how, in the NBA, he's like, I'm not going to commit right now because things change so fast. Like 1 month, 2 months, 6 months, your entire coaching staff, your front office, everyone can get fired. And it's like, I don't think I'm committing to another 3 years in Sacramento, which would put him in Sacramento for another 5 years, because his extension would be a 3-year extension on top.
Mm-hmm.
And then the only way you're doing that is if you're laying out the next 5-6 years of your career and saying, this is where I want to be because I think we'll reach this benchmark and this benchmark in the future. As of right now, like him and Domas are around the same age.
Mm-hmm.
You got a young guy in Keegan. You've got another player around the same age in Malik Monk, right? You have this small group of players that should be able to move together and should be able to stay together and win a bunch. Mm-hmm. But you also just bought yourself a little bit of time with DeMar DeRozan. In the grand scheme of an NBA career, like DeMar DeRozan may not make it to the extension that we're talking about with De'Aaron Fox.
Sure.
Like the Kings could opt out of the final year of his deal. And so 2 years from now, when Fox is a true free agent, DeMar DeRozan could no longer. So you can't even almost consider him as part of what this is. So it's a tough spot to be in. We've heard, like if you read the piece, you'll even hear like the real brutal honesty from Domantas Sabonis, where he's asked about going out and getting DeMar DeRozan, and the Kings had actually asked him, like, hey, can you call DeMar?
Or help recruiting, yeah.
And then by the time he went to call him, he realized that DeMar DeRozan was already in Sacramento, was already at the arena, was already about to sign a deal. It was like, shoot, I didn't do what I didn't call him like I was supposed to. But then like there's always these moments with Domas. And I saw it this summer when we went to his camp. He said in this piece, he said, then the DeMar thing came up. I'm like, okay, another one in parentheses that won't happen because nothing was working. Here we go again.
Right. And that reflects what he said at his camp, right?
It reflects what he says at his camp, where it was like, oh, yeah, we're getting DeMar. Like, we might get DeMar. We're chasing DeMar DeRozan. He's like, okay, it's just another guy we're chasing because it likely won't work out.
It turns out all the frustrations we and Kings fans had were the same as the players.
Well, at least Domantas Sabonis, for sure.
Yeah.
Where it's like, hey, like at a certain point, stop bringing up names. Again, like the first thing we hear is, oh, they trade a player. They trade, Jalen McDaniels to the Spurs. And the first thing you hear is, oh, Kings are still in on Brandon Ingram and DeMar DeRozan.
LaVine.
Oh, Zach LaVine. Yeah, Zach LaVine. Sorry. And it's like, okay, why are we bringing this up now? Because unless it happens, it's not happening. And how many times have they been rumored with, on draft day of almost got player X, whether it was Kyle Kuzma or whether it was Ingram, whoever it was that they were almost about to get, they didn't get him. And as a player that plays for that team, there comes a point where you get a little jaded by it because it's like, okay, not only are we not getting the player that, whoever it might have been, but at the same time, we just keep throwing all these other dudes that I've got to now work with under the bus who might get traded at any moment. And it becomes like this perpetual cycle of what exactly are we doing?
Yeah.
How are we moving forward when every single time we swing and we miss, and then we got to kind of pick up the pieces here with our teammates that didn't get traded this time.
Yeah.
So, even like last year, there was a moment where Harrison Barnes in December literally said, I'll talk to the media after February 8th, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Like, that's when I'll hold my next media session. Because he's like, I don't know if I'm going to be
tired
here.
of getting asked about it.
I'm tired of not only getting asked about it, I'm tired of being in front of media when, like, I don't feel comfortable that I'm going to be here. And how am I supposed to talk about the future of this team and how we're building and how we're doing this and this when I might not be a part of any of that.
Right.
So it really interesting dynamic. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think with De'Aaron and Domas specifically, it's not about like this to me, the urgency here is a sign that this what the Kings are has shifted from, okay, they've gone from bottom feeder to, well, they skipped the step of like potential playoff contender to just like playoff team. And then they fell back. They're firmly in that stratosphere of, okay, in the playoff mix. Being in the playoff mix is great, but there has to be moves to go to that next level. Domas with De'Aaron and Monk and Keegan, that's a nice little group. But if you're going to contend with the Boston Celtics of the world, there needs to be more. And I think DeMar is a great step. Like, that's a fantastic step toward that. And De'Aaron Fox does as much in this piece with Sam Amick.
Yep.
But now it's how do you continue doing that? Because you can't just go to the playoffs this year and lose in the first round and be like, see, we did it. Extension time, De'Aaron? Like, that's not, I think, going to do it. I think they have to continue doing this over the next couple of years and continue to grow as a franchise. And playoff trips are great, but I definitely think that there's that next level that they all want to get to.
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I mean, De'Aaron Fox right now is 72 games away from tying Jason Thompson for the all-time leader in games played during the Sacramento era.
So fingers crossed he shatters that this season.
If he plays 73 games, he becomes the all-time leader in games played.
Crazy.
And it's one of those things where, that might not mean a lot to somebody, but for someone who's kind of been through the ups and the downs, to be able to say, hey, I made it through it. But the biggest thing for him has always been about winning, and he knows the second that he wins, that they win, that he becomes an all-star, which is exactly what happened. And so you're always left with this, like, okay, how do I keep winning, or can I win here? And I think, after last season, it's a reality. Like, there's no guarantee this team makes playoffs this year.
Yeah.
We can talk about them as like a 50, 51, 52 win season, but there's no guarantee at all that that's what happens. This team could, like what I've talked about with some of these other teams, whether it be the Clippers or whether it be the Warriors or the Lakers, it could take a step backwards. Like, the Kings could be one of those teams. They could win 43 games this year. They could win 42, and like things could get a little dicey. And then what happens?
Yeah.
Then who wants out? Who? So I think the tenor of a franchise can change so quickly, and I get it. I get why Fox feels that way, and why Sabonis feels like we're always swinging and missing. Like, and at the end of the day, you have to. We will judge these guys at the end of their careers, Monty McNair, Wes Wilcox, at their end of their tenure with the Sacramento Kings, with not the moves that almost happened, but the moves that did happen. The move for Domantas Sabonis, absolutely brilliant. But then what are the other moves that you have to do to get over the top? Signing Malik Monk to a 2-year deal.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant.
Yep.
Even trading for Kevin Huerter. Like, he had a bad season last year, but in year one, Kevin Huerter, that was a very, very good trade.
Yep.
That cost you, a draft pick. But, again, I think that there's a lot of ways in which we always think that the Kings are being so active, and it's because they're mentioned in every single story.
Yeah.
It's not because they've actually done all that much.
Yeah.
And so if I'm the players, I feel the same way. Like, at what point, bring me a deal when it's done.
Yeah.
Don't ask me to call another player, but bring me that's Kyle Sox.
Yeah, it is. Come on.
Kyle Sox showed up.
Fired up. Shout out to Socktober.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. And that's, and I think with Fox specifically, since he's the one we're talking about with his extension and why he hasn't signed it yet and stuff. I think if you're De'Aaron Fox, Matt Moore wrote about this in his Kings season preview. Matt Moore, not bullish on the Kings, by the way.
No.
If you want optimism, don't go read what he had to write on the Action Network. But he does say, like, De'Aaron Fox is an elite player. De'Aaron Fox should be a superstar. And I think if you're De'Aaron, I'm going, okay, we're building something here in Sacramento. This is kind of my what's the word? Like, territory.
Yep.
This is my corner.
His kingdom.
Yes, for good pun. Because he was how old was De'Aaron Fox when the Kings were awesome? 6?
Oh, I don't even know if he's that.
Well, he's 20.
He's 26.
So 2 or 3?
Yes.
So right. Yeah. So he doesn't. There's no as long as De'Aaron Fox, there's not been like a dude in Sacramento. Like, we know all about Vlade and Peja and Bibby and all that. Like, we're there. But there's not been that dude in Sacramento in his lifetime.
Yeah.
So I think he relishes that. But then as he's been here in Sacramento, he watches Jason Tatum from his draft class take this meteoric leap into winning a ring. He talked about Bam Adebayo in this piece. Anthony Edwards came in way after him, making this meteoric rise to be like the face of the league. Luka Doncic came in after him, has taken this huge leap. And he looks around and he sees Devin Booker a year before him. Devin Booker's before
or
him.
2. I think it's 2 years. Yeah.
But I think he looks around the league and he sees all these guys that it's like, why am I not there? Why am I not in that conversation? And it'd be a logical thought, because he should be. When you go look at all the things, like I said, Matt Moore laid it out in the Action Network. All the numbers are like, this is one of the league's premier scorers. Yep. There are not that many dudes in the league better at putting the ball in the hoop than De'Aaron Fox.
Yes.
If De'Aaron Fox played for the Knicks, De'Aaron Fox would be the face of basketball.
Look, man, last year, 18 of the 19 top scorers in the league, 19 go from 1 to 19. 18 of them made the All-Star team. The guy who, at the time of the All-Star break, I think was number 8 in the league in scoring, is De'Aaron Fox, is the only one who didn't make the All-Star team. Like, you look at last year's scoring leaders, De'Aaron Fox scored more than so many of these guys that are considered like face of the league. And it can't just be about points per game.
No doubt.
But when you finish number 8 in the league at 26.6, 0.3 behind Jason Tatum.
But that's the kind of, like you said, it's not everything, but that's the kind of stuff that does matter to the casual fan.
Yeah.
Is going to go and look at points.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like, again, are we going to assess every player? Are we going to rank players based on points per game? No. But that's the kind of thing that gets eyeballs. That's the kind of thing the league is going to market. And if you're not going to be in New York or LA, you have to be in the playoffs year after year. You have to be contending.
Yes. And
so I get why Fox is looking at, he's going to have his own shoe. He's looking at all these other guys making these leaps into Ja Morant. Another one.
Yeah.
Has his own shoe, made this leap, and granted he's had his own stuff, but I think he's going, that should be me. How do we get there?
Yeah. And again, it might be that Sacramento can't be the place that does that for you. And but at what point do you look at your career and go, maybe I'm never going to get that? Again, it's a tough place to be in. But I still think that he's bought in. I still think this is where he wants to be. Like, he's established himself. His wife and kids are here. Like, they've established themselves in the community. They've got friends. They've got family here. They've built their own community. And what they want is to win. And hey, look, again, how many times do we walk into a season and go, man, you don't have the length and athleticism to compete with some of these other teams. And you're like, okay.
And I think the other aspect of it, I want to get to that in a second, but with him being here and having his family here and stuff, he sees the way former Kings get treated. He sees what you could be a legend in this town forever. If he stays here for, I'm going to say 20 years, but let's just fingers
18,
crossed here and plays for 20 years. He could be here for 20 years. He would be the dude forever in Sacramento.
Oh yeah.
And he knows that. And that's why I think he wants to be here. And that's there. I think if let's just call this a ladder, right? They're moving the right way up the ladder. And I think if they keep doing the kind of things they've been doing, you're going to see De'Aaron Fox sign an extension. He's going to be with the Kings.
Yep.
But if they start sliding down that ladder, now I think the conversation's different, because there's all those pros of staying in Sacramento, but ultimately, you're talking about earning potential. You're talking about trying to sell shoes. You're trying to talk about getting endorsements. To do that in Sacramento, you have to be competing for titles.
Yeah.
And that's what I think he's kind of getting at here.
To continue your ladder analogy, I think what Fox is feeling at this point is you got a 16-foot ladder, but your roof is 30 feet tall. And so he needs, not only does he need to be able to climb the ladder like he has, but what he can't do is get to the top of the ladder here in Sacramento, and the top of the ladder isn't tall enough. And
which is a really apt metaphor.
Yeah, he needs something else to raise the ladder up. He needs a bigger ladder. And as of right now, I think the Kings keep they're almost there. They're teasing that they brought the right ladder for the job.
Yeah.
But he's
on its way.
He's not sure, because he can see the top of the ladder and be like, okay, look, I'm not jumping to grab the eaves to pull myself up the rest of the way. There's no way for me to do that. At what point do you outgrow the franchise that you're a part of?
We're in talks with a lot of ladders.
Yeah.
Been in talks.
Yeah.
We're going to be in talks with Mitch in New Jersey on the Elk Grove Kia talk line, 916-909-1320, 916-909-1320. It's the Elk Grove Kia talk line if you'd like to join the program. Mitch, what do you got?
Hey, what's happening, fellas?
Chilling, buddy.
Tough crowd, this chat room. Mitch Don from New Jersey.
Yeah, what's up, Don?
Caption, Mitch. There was something else that was always funny. But
you getting roasted?
Anyway.
You getting roasted in the chat?
I'm telling you, I get some good ones here. Take some shots. I may know I was only 5'6". But anyway.
Oh, go ahead, Mitch.
Football. Before I get to the Raiders.
Yeah.
This Fox it sounded more and more like Shohei Ohtani. They offered him good money. They weren't trying. The minor league system that's quite a few teams, but they had tried to keep him. You had Michael Trout there, and it still wasn't good enough for him. But we're going to sweep. We got this. Dodgers going to be sweeping tonight, so that series is over.
Okay.
This guy's an incredible player. You say the Raiders should try to try to tank. They don't have to try. They're going to do it anyway. And then, there's so many good quarterbacks. We're going to get one of those 4 stars. I think they should draft 2 quarterbacks, one in the 4th round, 3rd round, like Jackson Dart, and hoping the guy from Texas, Quinn Ewers.
Quinn Ewers, yeah.
But what's this? One more thing, I'll leave you.
Yeah.
Who's making these trades? You gave up so much for Adams. What you get is a 3rd-round pick. You got the Jets over a bundle. You got, but you know what? That's all they got for. Very poor management and some bad draft choices the last 5 years.
No doubt. Thanks, Mitch. Appreciate it. Yeah, and that's why they fired their GM and got a new GM and a new head coach, and hopefully move that franchise the right direction.
Mm-hmm. And I'm going to say, hey, the first point that Mitch made is very, very, on point. De'Aaron Fox isn't Shohei.
So you say, if De'Aaron Fox is Shohei, the Kings are cooking.
Yeah, but the fact that, that you had a Shohei and a Mike Trout on the same team and they could not win at all, at a certain point, you got to go where you can win. And it's the reality. Either you got to win where you are, you got to figure that out, or you got to go somewhere else.
Well, and look, in fact, the Shohei and Mike Trout comparison is great, because you have Shohei who went, hey, I'm out of here. And now he's hitting leadoff home runs in Game 4 of the NLCS with a chance to go to the World Series in his first year out of Anaheim. And Mike Trout, granted, some of it's injury related, but even if Mike Trout was healthy, he is gone. He has faded into oblivion. Mike Trout has played, I think, in 3 postseason games. He's going to go down as one of the most talented players to ever wear spikes, and nobody's going to remember him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no legacy at all.
And that is not what Shohei wanted, and he got the heck out of there.
Yeah. And again, at a certain point in your career, I understand it. And I would never hold it against a player in that situation. Would I be bummed out if he's not here? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
But would you understand it? Yes, you would understand it.